Welcome to Eden Vale. If you like, subscribe and share.
Well, just the mysterious and nature of everything and how strange everything is. The RCMP, they have to keep a tight lip on everything, but there's a lot more that meets the eye with the case.
Today we're looking at the case of Lilly and Jack Sullivan, the brother and sister who were reported missing from their home in Nova Scotia. Slowly, more information is being released, and this does appear to be putting the pressure on Daniel and Malehya, as everyone is scouring and dissecting every bit of information that comes out, even though they're in that very secluded, forested location with very few neighbors. There are a few people who did report hearing a vehicle coming and going in the middle of the night, after midnight. That is just a few hours before Lilly and Jack were reported missing that morning of May the 2nd. That was a Friday. So now we are finding out in these new details from these witnesses. This is information that had been redacted previously, but as requested by the news at CBC, the press was able to get more information put out. And now that this has been released, it's painting a clearer picture of what might have happened at that property before the kids went missing. Police do have a 911 call from Malehya Brooks Murray, the children's mother, and she told the police they had wandered away from their home in Lansdowne Station. So this neighbor who lives near their home did have a conversation with two constables. He told the constables that he heard, quote, a loud vehicle, and it was coming and going from that area in the early morning hours of May the 2nd. Now, looking at that location, you're probably thinking, how would he have seen anything when there's so many trees? It's very densely forested, and they're also a distance away from each other. But this happened at night in darkness. And what he said was his residence is elevated. It's at an elevated position from Daniel's residence. And for that reason, he could see vehicles' lights over the treetops. So that does make sense. I can imagine that regardless of the distance, the darkness is a key factor that would help when you consider the lights shining through, versus in the daytime, you wouldn't have seen the lights. Now, he went on to say the vehicle left 3 or 4 times after midnight and into the early morning hours. He said the vehicle would drive off in the distance, and he could hear it stop and then return. He said it remained in earshot the entire time. All right, so that implies that the car was not driving so far that he couldn't hear it. So where in the world was this car going? It wasn't that far, obviously. Now, there's another statement that the police took, and this happened on May 17th. This is from another neighbor who also lives in the area. This person's name is Justin Smith. Smith said he was awake and on Facebook during the early morning hours of May the 2nd, around 1:30 a.m. Of course, they can confirm this when they check his digital records. He heard a car on Highway 289 turn around by the railroad tracks near the area of Gerlach Road and Lansdowne Station. That is pretty specific. So this neighbor is also confirming what the previous neighbor said. After midnight, this guy is saying more specifically at 1:30 a.m., and he's able to pinpoint specifically that he heard a car on Highway 289 that turned around by the railroad tracks. That intersection is near the home where the children went missing. Quote, it made noise, then went quiet. The vehicle was quiet for about 2 minutes, then drove towards Lairg Road, Lairg Road. the RCMP member wrote. Now, this guy, Mr. Smith, Justin, he later spoke to Brad Wong, who informed him Daniel's vehicle came and went 5 or 6 times that night. Wong said the car Smith heard was Daniel. All right, so you can imagine that this is definitely going to have Daniel shaking in his boots. Daniel had come out with a totally different story, contradicting what these 2 witnesses are confirming. Daniel's account of that evening, he told police he went to bed, quote, fairly early and didn't wake up until it was light the next morning. In the documents, we find out that Malehya told police she put Lilly and Jack to bed first, then their 1-year-old daughter, and then went to bed herself at around 9 p.m. Well, I'd say that's pretty early. Malehya said that Daniel stayed up and was going to clean the house for her, but it wasn't clean when she got up, so she doesn't know what he did. All right, so 9 p.m. according to Malehya, she's gone to bed, and she doesn't know after that what Daniel did. She said she was not woken up throughout the night and does not know when Daniel came to bed. This is in the documents, the court documents. In a phone interview Friday, Martel said no one from the family left the property that night and they did not have any visitors. According to this information here, Daniel said, quote, that he went to bed fairly early. But what does that mean? When is fairly early? Because we have Malehya going to bed at 9 and he did not go to bed at that time. So when did he actually go to bed? Now Daniel, he is not agreeing with any of this information, of this coming and going of vehicles, of the lights at night. He's saying that the only vehicle that left the yard was on the morning when the kids went missing, when he took Malehya's SUV to look for the children. So I have to wonder, how does he know? Like, if it wasn't him in the vehicle, if he had been sleeping, then I would question if maybe somebody else had taken the vehicle. But he's saying that the only vehicle that left the yard was in the morning. So does that mean that he was awake all night and that he can vouch for the fact that there were no lights and no cars coming and going? Daniel said the RCMP never asked him about the vehicle coming and going, but Daniel has praised the detectives. He said, quote, I know the investigators work hard. They're exploring every lead. All right, so we have multiple witnesses which are basically giving the same information. It's not just one neighbor who said that they'd seen or heard lights. We have 2 different sources here which have come out, and basically they're confirming each other's stories, and they believe that it was Daniel. Now we have Daniel who is saying no, there were no vehicles that left the yard until the morning, and Malehya who says she doesn't know when Daniel went to bed, and that when she got up, she doesn't know what he did because he hadn't cleaned the house. The house was not cleaned, as he said he would do for her. When she says that when she went to bed, Daniel stayed up to clean the house for her. So I'm not sure, is somebody here like lying? What does Daniel have to say about this information? So it seems that Malehya is not going to account or back up Daniel. She is questioning as well what he'd been doing that night. But with this witness account from Smith, he has been able to pinpoint that he was on Facebook at around 1:30 a.m. And at that time, he heard a car on Highway 289 which turned around by the railroad tracks. He says it made a noise and then went quiet. He says the vehicle was quiet for about 2 minutes, then drove towards Lairg Road. Brad Wong is the one who informed Smith that it was Daniel's vehicle that came and went 5 or 6 times that night. Wong is the one who said the car that Smith heard was Daniel's. So if we're going to believe these two witnesses, then Daniel's not telling the truth. Daniel was up at 1:30 a.m. If we believe what these people are saying, what was he doing? Obviously, Malehya is basically telling us that she doesn't know because she went to bed at 9 and did not wake up till morning. Nothing woke her up. So that leaves the opening for Daniel, who was up and about. He should have been cleaning the house, according to Malehya, but according to the neighbors, he was out at 1:30 a.m. Now here is the home. We have here the house and the trailer back here, and this little brown thing is where the swings are. And Lairg Road is not far away by car. It's only 5 minutes. Let me show you where it is. Gairloch Road is the 289, if you can see that number. And here is Lairg Road. So there is a home right here on that corner. Now what he's saying is that it went in the direction of Lairg Road. So he heard the noise here, right around Gairloch Road and Lansdowne Station, close to the railroad. But what this guy is saying is that he heard the car on Highway 289 turn around by the railroad tracks near the area of Gairloch Road and Lansdowne Station. So he's saying it turned around there. He says it made a noise, then went quiet. The vehicle was quiet for about 2 minutes. Then it drove towards Lairg Road, which is this direction here. From here, it drove in this direction after it was quiet for about 2 minutes, which we have Lairg Road over here. So here are the tracks. This is where the guy heard the noise, somewhere around here, and then it turned around and went in that direction. Here are the tracks, all right? So there are a few homes in the area. It went in this direction, and we are going to see, this is the north-south 289. Here is Daniel's place, his mom's place, and the guy's saying that it went in this direction of Lairg Road. Brad Wong is the one who told Smith. He told him, he informed him, it was Daniel's vehicle that was going by 5 or 6 times that night. He has increased the amount of times to up to 6 times that the vehicle had been going back and forth. And according to him, the vehicle was in earshot, that he could hear it. Also, where he lives, he can see the lights because his residence is elevated. His land is higher up, it's elevated, so that he can actually see Daniel's residence from where he lives. He could see the lights over the treetops. All right, so it looks like Daniel has kind of cornered himself with his account of what he had been doing that night, because there's 2 separate witnesses who are basically just backing each other's stories up. So how is Daniel going to fight this? How is he going to come clean when there's 2 witnesses? How is he going to do this? Here is Daniel's place, right here. Here's the train track. Now at this point, I don't know where any of these people live, and I'm not really going to share that even if I did know. There's homes here close to the tracks, more than one. And, there's this one here as well. So I don't know which one is the elevated property, but, I think Daniel has some serious problems here because they're able to zero in on what he said now, and it shows him either to be a liar or there's something going on here with his vehicle in the night that he's not aware of. So let me know what you all think about this. And to me, it seems like the police are zeroing in on the lies here. They're finding out that things don't match up. There are some contradictory bits of information. And I don't think that the witnesses would be lying. And I'm wondering if there's actually more witnesses. It seems that Malehya is not backing up Daniel. These 2 witnesses are not backing up Daniel. But Daniel is constantly backpedaling. He is out there with his story nonstop, trying to set the narrative, and it's getting to be quite suspicious now that this information is out. What was he doing that night? Who was it in that vehicle? At the beginning of this case, you'll remember that they had been asking for videos, any information from neighbors, trail cameras, anything that people had. I never imagined that there would be neighbors who would have seen what happened at night. I figured this is very secluded where they live. It's very, very secluded. Look at that dense tree growth, bushes, everything. I never imagined that there would be a neighbor that could actually see at night what was going on here. But it makes sense if the neighbor is elevated and it's a quiet area. So anything you hear, you might have noticed if you go up north much, if you go out of the city, you can hear more clearly at night because there's not all of the noise coming from the streets and the highway. That would help these neighbors to hear that there is a car coming and going. You hear them when they drive by. And obviously, being in your home at night, in the darkness, you can see through your window when a car drives by. The darkness will actually show the light. That is pretty incredible if you really think about that whole idea, where that whole aspect of darkness can cover a crime. But in this case, you have the light, which is shining to reveal whatever activity that was going on. If something was being concealed, if the kids were being taken away, it's pretty remarkable when I look here. And like I said, I don't know which neighbors it is, but when you come around this train track, obviously somebody would have had the capability of seeing lights around here driving by. Here it's not as secluded in this location, so this is pretty good. These are the kinds of things that the detectives are having to question. Can they believe Daniel? This is a serious problem for him, a serious problem. But now the question remains, where are these kids? What could he have done in that time to either hide the kids, to pass them on to someone else? Are we going to find out that there's an accomplice? Driving back and forth here that night doesn't tell us where the kids are. Could it be he was driving back and forth and stopped, but that the kids are not hidden anywhere here, but that he had stopped the vehicle, or whoever it was that was driving that vehicle had stopped the vehicle in order to pass Lilly and Jack, or to move Lilly and Jack into another vehicle. So nobody actually hid the kids here. The search was fruitless because there's an accomplice who drove the kids away. And I'm not going to say who I think it might be. Some of you might have an idea, but I have to wonder if that's what's going on in this case, that there's an accomplice who took the kids, and the driving back and forth was in order to meet up with that accomplice, or waiting for the accomplice, something like that. Why? I have no idea. What motive would he have to do that? For what reason? Could it be a monetary issue? Could it be an issue where the kids had been harmed? At this point, we don't know, but we have these contradictions. I look forward to seeing what you all have to say. We're going to continue on discussing this case. It's getting interesting, and it looks like they are zeroing in on the truth of where Lilly and Jack are, or what happened to Lilly and Jack Sullivan. Thank you all so much for joining me. Please remember to subscribe, turn on your notifications so that you don't miss out on the next video. Be sure to join me again soon. Bye for now.